What's up, Canuck fans? Welcome to the Line Change Podcast, a proud presentation of DraftKings Sportsbook, as well as a proud member of the Hockey Podcast Network. Be sure to check out the network for your favorite podcast covering your favorite team at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com, the home of hockey podcasts, every team, everywhere. Now, I wanted to start this a little early, and don't worry, we will still be joined by our very special guest in about 15 minutes or so. I wanted to talk a little bit about the game last night against the Toronto Maple Leafs. I said it, if we're going to win at least one game on this road trip, it's got to be against the Leafs. But nope, the Canucks weren't having any of that. They were downright embarrassed by the Leafs last night, who, for the first time since 2023, beat the Canucks. So they've not managed to beat the Canucks in the last 3 years, and they finally do it, blanking them 5-0. Absolutely disaster performance from the Canucks. No effort, no heart whatsoever. And honestly, if it wasn't for my buddy Alfred chatting with guys like David Quadrelli, Harmon Dial at the Canucks Army watch party last night at Greta, I probably wouldn't have even watched this game or really paid any attention to it. So that's how bad this game was. I mean, yeah, but we'll talk about it with Dolly when he comes on, get his thoughts on the Canucks' performance, or rather lack thereof. We'll ask him about the big topic around Vancouver, that is trading Kiefer Sherwood. We'll talk Evander Kane and what the Canucks could get for him, or what Dolly's hearing around the league. Get the scoop, if you will. And we're just going to chat. I'm absolutely thrilled and over the moon for this opportunity to have Rick on the podcast. It's like I tweeted, checking this one off the old bucket list. And guys, this podcast has only been around for 11 months, under a year, and I got Rick Dhaliwal. So, I was at the Canucks Army watch party last night at Greta, played a little air hockey with quads, got my butt kicked by quads, got my butt kicked by Alfred as well. So, apparently I'm not very good at air hockey. But if you guys watched Rink Wide last night, I got a little bit of a shout out from J-Pat, although not by name. He just called me the guy in the JT Miller jersey right there. And, I guess he saw me playing air hockey with, I think it was quads. And he said that I was able to keep my composure. And yeah, I did. Despite losing the quads, I did keep my composure playing air hockey. So I thought that was quite funny watching that on Rink Wide last night. But, so Rick will be joining us right at 9 o'clock. Like I said, I wanted to jump on here and kind of talk about the game a little bit and how disappointed I was with it. Not that I was really surprised by considering how the Canucks' performance has been the last few games and where it's just feels like they've checked out. So, but yeah. For having Dolly on, it would only be about 20 to 25 minutes, as he's obviously very busy. So he's given us 20 to 25 minutes. So I may not be able to get to too many questions, or comment questions from people. So bear that in mind. I will do what I can. So, but before I want to bring on Rick Dhaliwal, I do want to do my sponsor read. So I will do my sponsor read in about 5 minutes or so, and then get that out of the way. And then right at 9 o'clock, we will bring on Rick Dhaliwal. So post in the comments what you guys thought about the Canucks game last night against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Were you guys like me, where you guys were absolutely disappointed in the performance of the team? Were you guys disappointed with the effort? And were you like me, who just wanted them to at least beat the stinking Maple Leafs for once, and at least get their hopeful lone win of the road trip? But instead, they are, 0-3 on this road trip. And still, the Vancouver Canucks have yet to win in 2026. Obviously, Brock Besser had a great chance that he whiffed on. on the power play, completely missed the puck. So he seems to be snake bit right now, having not scored in 20 games now. He has no goals in 20 games, or hasn't scored in 20 games, I should say. So, yeah, go ahead, post in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about the game, thought about the game last night. And in about a few minutes, I will do my sponsor read, and then right at 9 o'clock, Rick Dhaliwal will be on. Also, if you guys have never been to a Greta watch party, they are absolutely amazing and so much fun. Even when the Canucks lose, you're gonna have a guaranteed a good time. Like I mentioned, people like David Cordrelli are there, Harman Dial. Actually, last night Blake Price showed up. So did Matt Sakaris. Obviously, they did the live edition of Rink Wide Vancouver, so I stuck around a little bit for that. That was very cool to see get set up and start. It was awesome. Obviously, I had to leave a little bit early because I wanted to get home and prepare for this morning. So, but it was a lot of fun, watching and obviously being there with my buddy Alfred, who you guys know. I've seen in the comments on this channel as well as on Clay's channel. You've seen him. Spending time with him was great, and yeah, playing him in air hockey, which I haven't played in years. I will admit I've not played air hockey in so long, but at the end of the day, I still got my butt kicked by both quads and Alfred. All right, so I'm going to do my sponsor read, and then, like I said, right at 9 o'clock, Dolly should hop on, and then we'll just dive right into it. I got loads of questions for him and have a lot that I want to discuss with him, regarding the Canucks. So we are going to do that. But first, here, I'll thank one of my other sponsors first. And that is, of course, Gassy Jack Art, maker of this fine artwork you see right here. Go ahead and get your prints from GassyJackArt.com. They only range from about $20. I believe he still has his buy two, get two free. I'm not entirely sure, but he has had that sale going on for quite some time, so he might still have it. So you can actually probably get 2 prints for $40. Or no, actually you can buy 2 and get an additional 2 of them for free. So go ahead, check them out, GassyJackArt.com. And I want to thank my primary sponsor, none other than DraftKings Sportsbook. Never experienced the jaw-dropping moments that make hockey? Well, you can experience them all with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Missouri listeners, listen up. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in the Show Me State. New customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN, that's code THPN, to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-78-9777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Pass-through per wager may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. This is a limited time offer. Copyright NHL 2025, all rights reserved. All right. Let me get to a couple of your comments before Dolly comes on. Kempner, good to see you, buddy. The disappointing thing about last night is that it's one thing to lose a game, but it's brutal to not be able to compete. The Leafs killed us. This team is not good enough to win. Team tank. And absolutely, they absolutely killed us. Like I said, I didn't really even see any effort from the Canucks last night. And actually, believe it or not, whenever the Leafs scored, me and Alfred would like cheer the fact that the Leafs scored instead of, usually we would, you would think cheer for the Canucks scoring. Well, the Canucks ended up not even scoring last night. So I was like, let's at least cheer for the Leafs scoring because at least that helps out, Team Tank. So that's what I ended up doing while watching the game. I ended up cheering whenever the Leafs scored. And I'll admit, I think I got a few looks, but it's Team Tank, man. We're all about tanking. The more goals the other team scores, the better. We got Kempner in here, like I mentioned. Good morning. Good morning to you too, Trev. Exciting that you have Rick on the show. I love his content, and I'm a big fan. Yeah, me as well. Duolingo in the house. Good to see you, Duo. Hype guest this morning, bro. Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and bring him on here. So without any further ado, please help me welcome the legendary, the one and only. He puts the Dolly in Donnie and Dolly, the team. Please welcome to the Line Change Podcast, Rick Dhaliwal.
How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good.
That's good to hear. You got me up on a Sunday morning.
Yeah. Yeah, likewise. Thank you very much for doing this, Rick. I really appreciate it, man.
Anytime.
Now, before we get into Canucks stuff, I actually have a question from my dad who wanted me to ask you this. He's a very big fan. He's also a big fan of Donnie's. And he asked, what do you think of the proposed changes to the CFL rules?
The CFL rules?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. My biggest issue is the 3 downs. If they got to keep the 3 downs because that's what makes it Canadian. And the moment you leave 3 downs to go to 4 downs, you're going to lose me because the first word in CFL is Canadian. And Donnie and I go back to Empire Stadium in the late 70s and 80s. We're huge fans of Lions. Like, people don't realize, the bulk of our show is Canucks, but Donnie and I are huge Lions fans going way back to the late 70s. As long as they keep it at 3 downs, I'm okay. But the moment they go from 3 to 4 downs, you're going to lose me. The unique thing about the Canadian Football League is 3 downs, is the fact that you got to play a certain amount of Canadians. So all the other stuff they did this year, I can live with. I understand the motive behind doing it. Like a lot of the stuff, I'm okay with it. But they will lose me. The moment they go from 3 to 4 downs, they did not do that. So they kept it, the Canadian ratio, which the CFLPA's got more to do with than the actual commissioner. As long as they keep the Canadian ratio, I'll be happy. And as long as they keep it at 3 downs, I'll be happy. You can tinker with the other stuff. I have no issues with that. As long as it's common sense. They thought through it. The owners, the governors, everybody signed off on it. So I'm okay with that. To make the game better, you got to always have innovation. If you keep something the same forever, it becomes stale. And this is recognition on their part that certain parts of our game need to be addressed. And I'm okay with that. It's no different than a business that is becoming stale. The owners of a business have to make a decision that we got to change things. They're stale. So no issues with that. but make sure you keep it Canadian. Make sure you keep the downs at 3, the ratio of amount of players that are from Canada, keep that the same, and I'll be okay with that.
For sure. He's more of a football fan than I am. But he wanted me to ask you that, and I was like, yeah, sure.
It's a great question because, and like I said again, and your dad's probably been watching the Lions like Donnie and I for years. The Lions and the Whitecaps, proved this year that it's just not a hockey town. And now we got the Golden Eyes, we got the Warriors, we got the BC Hockey League, we got the Western Hockey League, the Vancouver Giants. There's a lot of stuff. It's just not, Canucks 24/7. The Whitecaps proved this year that when you do special things, people will hop on board. The Lions should have won that Western final. Nathan Rourke, Canadian quarterback, he's doing special things. So the Lions and the Whitecaps proved this year that when you do things the right way from ownership on down, people will jump on board and they will support you. Ron Toigo does a lot of good stuff with the Giants. I'm a big junior hockey fan. I've been covering junior hockey since 1990. So I'm glad you brought that up because there are other sports in this town other than the Canucks. But the Canucks are obviously always going to be the number one story. But it was nice to see the Whitecaps capture the imagination of the fans and the Lions. Last 2-3 years, going to the Western Final all the time, that was good as well.
Mm-hmm. Sure. All right, let's get back to them Canucks. So obviously Kiefer Sherwood's name has been going around a lot, and he's really become the talk of the town and the season, this Canucks season. Could you see the Rangers actually maybe landing Sherwood? I know the Rangers have been talked about the destination, and they've been really pushing hard for him too. What do you think about the idea of trading Sherwood in exchange for Lafreniere?
Yeah, I don't. The Rangers aren't the only team pushing hard for him. I wouldn't classify them as, that's just a team like many others that since day one have been after Sherwood. Look, the bottom line on Sherwood is this. I wouldn't read. Why would the Rangers give up Lafreniere, who's got, unless you give Sherwood on a contract extension, to give up Lafreniere for a guy who's going to play for you for 2 or 3 months makes no sense on any level. You would have to cut a deal with Sherwood's agent and make sure he's with you for 4, 5, 6 years. That's not the type of guy you give away for a rental. Look, when it comes to Sherwood, lots of interest from lots of teams because of his price, $1.5 million. Any team is going to be able, that's going for the Stanley Cup, is going to be able to fit Sherwood in their salary cap because he's at such a really small price. Now, what you get for Sherwood with a contract extension and I'm talking about the Canucks, and what you get for Sherwood without an extension are two different things. No one's given up a ton for a guy who's only going to play for you for 30, 40 games, and that's it. So I think teams will, if you want a first-round pick and you want a whole bunch of stuff for Sherwood, I think those teams would probably want to talk to his agent and get an extension done as well. But look, still, the Canucks have not got what they want for Sherwood. Otherwise, they would have struck the deal. The general feeling is that they want a first-round pick, plus I could see him the Canucks getting a second-round pick for sure. But he's doing his job. He's leading the team in hits. He's leading the team in goals, power play, penalty killing. Most nights, he leads the team in shots, right? He's doing his part. Despite playing with the guy, Kemp, at center, it was not a playmaking center. Like David Kemp, one of the biggest issues the Canucks have right now is their center ice position. Pettersson, Kemp, Ratu, Sasson, and you go back a couple of years now, and what do they have? They had Pettersson, Miller, Horvat, Lindholm, and when you look at all their problems this year, they are all right there at center ice. They're right there playing. Pettersson last night, 2 for 11 in the faceoff circle. The Canucks had 6 power plays last night. They were 0 for 6. Pettersson had 1 shot. Like, how do you have only 1 shot on 6 power plays? as the number one center. But anyways, look, Sherwood's got a good market. The Rangers aren't the only team aggressively going after him. Since day one, there's been a ton of teams after him. And it's just the Canucks haven't got what they want yet. The Rangers are just the latest name to come up, but I wouldn't read them and put them at the forefront. I would say to you, there's a lot of interest in Sherwood, but the Canucks haven't got what they want, or they would have struck the deal by now.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I was actually thinking about this while I was watching the Leafs and Canucks game. We know that the Wild were interested in Sherwood at some point. I'm not sure if there's still interest. Perhaps there is. But I was thinking, what if when the Canucks traded Quinn Hughes, what if they had attached Sherwood in that package? Would they have gotten maybe more, an even bigger package in return?
No, I was told they didn't want to do that. I was told that they didn't want to package Hughes with Hughes, Sherwood and Hughes. I don't think they would have got, because the Wild, the Wild would have to come up with yet another draft pick high and another prospect. At some point, the Wild are sitting going, okay, well, the Wild are also one of the teams in on Sherwood as well. Just so you know, they've been poking around Sherwood since day one. But I was told the Canucks didn't want to do that. I think they could probably get a better package for him than if it's a singular trade. I think the Canucks did good on Hughes. I think they got Z Bouillon, who's only 20 years old. I know you saw he gave the puck away there at the blue line last night. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be mistakes, folks. Canucks have two 20-year-old defensemen, and they got a 21-year-old last night. You saw Pettersson, the defenseman, on the first goal. He got caught a little in the neutral zone. You saw him go to the wrong side of the ice. So there's going to be mistakes on that blue line, and the Canucks are going to have to live with mistakes from Willander and Bouillon and Pettersson, the young defenseman. The Canucks have two 20-year-old defensemen and one 21-year-old defenseman, but they're going to be better for making those mistakes and learning and getting better. At 22, 23, these guys are going to be up and running. But the young blue line on Vancouver, boy, there's not many teams that have two 20-year-old defensemen like the Canucks do. But the Bouillon's going to be a good one. It's going to take time. You can obviously see, and Willander, his ice time's going up. It was 17 minutes last night. You noticed Willander was at 10, 11, 12 for such a long time. Now he's on the power play, and all of a sudden your ice time goes up. So I think one of the best areas for the Canucks down the road is going to be their defense. And I think these young kids are going to blossom, but there's going to be mistakes. You're going to have to live with them. You're going to have to live with them, because Bouillon and Willander got good ice last night. They're learning on the fly. They're learning on the job. I think that blue line is going to be nice in 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Just quickly, your thoughts on the Demko injury that Foot talked about in the postgame. Any updates? I imagine not yet.
No, I haven't heard they've called anyone up this morning from Abbotsford. So Foot said they're going to evaluate him. So when a coach says we're going to evaluate him, it takes time. It takes time. So, I mean, for the Canucks to know what's going on with Demko right now, I think it's going to take time. We'll have to sit and wait. Tolopilo's there for them to call up if Demko is going to be out for a while. So we'll just sit and wait. But, with Thatcher Demko and Lankinen, and Demko's new contract kicks in next year, it's going to be over $8 million. And they're going to have two goaltenders. The Canucks are going to be giving two goaltenders next year. Hold on a sec. Let me do my math. Over $12 million, so close to $13 million. If you are in a rebuild and if you are going to be at the bottom of the standings next year, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to be giving two goaltenders over close to $13 million if you're in a rebuild. So, but also keep in mind, Kevin Lankinen has a no move for the first 2 years, this year and next year, in his contract. People talk about, why aren't the Canucks making a trade? Why are they waiting so long? Well, here's the problem. A lot of their guys have no moves, and a lot of their guys have trade protection. It's not easy moving those guys. Look at Tyler Myers, Tyler Myers took less money on July 1st to get that no move. Like, he literally left $2-3 million on the table to re-sign in Vancouver to have the comfort of the no move. So you know what? That's pretty. With the no move, you get the comfort. If you got a young family, you don't want to move. Lankinen just became a father. Myers has a young family. Those guys work hard to get no moves. And when you get a no move, there's, you have the comfort of not being moved in mid-season. You got kids in school. All that stuff matters. People don't take that into account. But you have to realize Myers took less money to get the no move. And Myers also, I've been told the Canucks don't want to move him right now. So I think the Canucks, the players that are available in Vancouver, in my eyes, are just wingers. I don't see anyone on the blue line. They don't want to move Hronek. They don't want to move Myers. The young kids got 3 spots. I don't see Marcus Pettersson going anywhere. I don't see the goaltenders going anywhere unless there's some drastic change. But I don't see any centers going because who wants their centers? They're the weakest team in the league in centers. The guys available in Vancouver, and one team told me Canucks have centers available, but we have a lot of centers, so they're not calling Vancouver. So I think the Vancouver's pretty. It's the wingers they're trying to move. There's no question.
Sure. I wanted to ask you, if we were back in 2023, if we could go back in time a few years ago, back then, if I told you that in that 2 year span, the Canucks would trade Bo Horvat, JT Miller, and Quinn Hughes, would you have believed it?
Well, that's the $1 million question right there. Is you had Miller, Horvat, Pettersson, you even had Lindholm, you had Quinn Hughes. The core is gone. If you go to the team that took Edmonton to 7 games, if you look at that hockey club, and they lost Zadorov and Ian Cole a few weeks later, that really hurt, because that summer Tocchet was really going to target leadership because of Cole and Zadorov leaving. So when you think about that hockey club and where they are today and who left off that hockey club, it's amazing. It's amazing. Look, they had to pick, in their defense, they had to pick between Horvat and Miller because both were entering the UFA year, right? And they had to pick one or two. So I don't blame them for picking one or two. You could say they picked the wrong guy, but they had to pick one or two because they didn't have the money to sign both, because both were looking at, over $8 million. And so you can't blame them for that. You had to pick one of the two. But you're right. At one time, 2 to 3 years ago, the Canucks were one of the top teams in the NHL with center depth, center quality. That's why if you want to look at it, the reason they took Edmonton to 7 games is because they were hard to play against, thanks to guys like Zadorov and Cole, and they were so strong up the middle. Lindholm was so strong defensively in that playoff, it wasn't even funny. And they had 3 great centers. They had Bluger in the 4th hole. They were strong up the middle of the ice. And just to look at, like last night, Camp, he's not a top 6 center. He's not a playmaking center. But, the wingers with him aren't going to get the puck. And then you got 2 young guys, Ratu and Sasson. Even that third line hole at center, that's a pretty important guy for PK and, quality minutes. You still need quality minutes from your third line center. And they have 2 young guys that started the season in Abbotsford and at the center. They've got to address the center ice position. I mean, there is no Coots is coming. Coots is 2-3 years away. We know that. I'll be surprised to see if they take a centerman high in this year's draft. And, all those people in Vancouver that want to rebuild, you better start looking at the 2026 prospects. The Canucks wake up this morning in 32nd place, and you better start looking at the top 10 picks, top 5 picks, because I'm going to tell you right now, that's exactly where the Canucks are heading. That's exactly where the Canucks are heading. Gavin McKenna's there, but he's a winger. Ivor Stenberg's there, but he's a winger. Keaton Vierhoff's there, the kid from Victoria, but he's a defenseman. One of the top center prospects is Tynan Lawrence, right? Caleb Maholtra is climbing the rankings in the Ontario Hockey League. Played in Chilliwack last year. Manny's kid, boy, I'm hearing a lot of good stuff about Manny's kid. I talked to someone in the OHL this week who told me that kid's stock is rising as a centerman. Canucks like him a lot, by the way. Another centerman the Canucks like, I talked to some people at the World Juniors, is Viggo Bjork out of Sweden. That's the guy the Canucks like. So, you know what? The Canucks, it's not a heavy center draft in the top 10. There are some centermen, but if you're picking one or two, it's going to be tough to take a centerman who's slotted in 6 or 7. So, you know, do you take the best player available? Is that, you know, Gavin McKenna and I know McKenna didn't wow everyone at the World Juniors, but the kid is still a phenomenal talent. Look what he did as a 15-year-old in the Western Hockey League. Stenberg, I just saw a highlight of him in Sweden this morning. He's going to be incredible. And if you go defenseman, Veerhoff, the kid from Victoria, played for the Cougars. He's there. So look, you know, if you're all on this rebuild thing, you better start looking at the top draft picks this summer, because it sure looks like the Canucks are going to have a top pick.
For sure. On that, going back to the Miller-Horvat thing, do you think things would have gone differently had the Canucks traded Miller instead of Horvat? No rift. Perhaps PD is still a 100-point player.
Well, if you kept Horvat, you wouldn't have had last year's disastrous soap opera of Miller and Pettersson. So yeah, they would be better off, 100%. And now Bo Horvat's an Olympian. So yes, to answer your question, yes, just simply from the fact you would have avoided last year's disastrous Miller-Pettersson fight because Horvat would have been there. And just before Horvat got traded by the Canucks, remember, he was on that heater. He was scoring every night. He was doing everything. And now he's an Olympian. He's picked up where he left off in Vancouver with New York. He's a really good community guy, really good teammate. He was the captain of the hockey club. Canucks have traded 2 captains now in the last 3 years. Like, you know, it's not a good thing to keep trading captains because you name them a captain for a reason, right? So to answer your question, just to avoid last year's disastrous soap opera, yeah, they would have been better off, and they would have had an Olympian this year. It's not like the Islanders are a much better team last year than the Canucks. They missed the playoffs too. It's not like Horvat. It's just this year, the Islanders got Matthew Schaefer, and the kid turned the franchise around, you know? So, yeah, to answer your question, obviously the Canucks would be in a better spot if they kept Horvat because they would have avoided last year's disastrous soap opera.
Sure. Speaking of captains, could you see Garland as a potential candidate for captain if they keep him around?
Yeah, I could see Garland and Garland, by the way, took it upon himself to be a bit of a leader this year to help the young kids. And I was told that early at training camp. So he's got leadership qualities. His motor never stops. A captain sets the culture. He sets the work ethic. He's a good pro on and off the ice. He puts in the extra time, all that stuff. Hronek is showing leadership qualities this year. But I can live with Garland being the captain. I think that but I mean, also being a captain in a Canadian market also means that you have to deal with the media every day, which isn't easy. You saw Quinn Hughes with the media at the end. He wasn't great, right? Body language wasn't great. But hey, if you're going to step up and be captain in the Canadian market with media and Twitter and social media and all that, part of your job, unfortunately, is dealing with the media every day and the accessibility of talking to the media every day. And when times are good and your team is winning, the media and the fans and social media is not an issue in the Canadian market. But as Quinn Hughes showed you, when times are not good and you're losing a lot and you got to stand up and talk to these guys every day, it's not a lot of fun. So there's a lot of things that go into being a captain in the Canadian market that you wouldn't have to be have the same issues in, say, Carolina, Columbus, or LA or Florida, where hockey's not number one. So there's a lot of factors that go into play when you're in a Canadian market. But I could see Garland. I like the way he gives it all he's got. And, right from training camp to practice to games, if young players can see how hard he works, that helps. But if young guys see a captain who's lollygagging, that's not good. But I would also say to you, there's not a lot of candidates on the Canucks for captain as well. I mean, Myers, did you hear Tom Willander last week, go out of his way to say how Myers has helped him in his development and the way he talks to him and gives him tips and stuff like that. Myers has got leadership qualities. So I don't think there's a ton of candidates in Vancouver to be captain, but I think Garland is definitely one.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Also, do you think Garland would be held on to despite the Canucks, hybrid rebuilding? I've heard they're hesitant.
Hold on. I'm getting some information here. I got a text here I got to take care of. So listen, I got to cut this short. But anyways, it was great meeting you guys. I just got to I just got a text I got to deal with. It's very important. So great talking to you guys anytime. Keep up the good work on your podcast, and we will go from there, my friend.
All right. Thank you very much, Dolly. I really appreciate it, man.
Anytime, pal.
All right. Thanks, man. All right. Well, there you go. That was Rick Dhaliwal. Had to cut it short. He's obviously a very busy man, so he's always on the go. So there you go. Rick Dhaliwal, everybody. I got some questions in, so that was good. Hopefully we'll be able to bring Dolly on once again. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We went a little bit longer then again, I did start a little early. And he hopped on a little early as well. So once again, I hope you guys enjoyed this little interview with Rick Dhaliwal. I hope it was insightful for you guys, especially relating to the Vancouver Canucks. And if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. Also, if you guys are interested, we have a merchandise store. So go ahead and check it out, thelinechangepodcast.threadless.com. We currently have our 1-year anniversary collection available with completely redesigned logos that include, the blue and green, as well as a skate version. So go ahead and check that out. We do have some sales going on as well. So check those out as well. Also, if you want to have more discussions, join our official Discord. There is a link in the description down below. It's completely free to join. So go ahead and do that. You can also find and interact with us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, Blue Sky. We're everywhere. Feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. And speaking of platforms, if you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcast. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow, as well as rate and review us on either platform. Also, if you have a favorite episode, feel free to download it. It really helps out the podcast. So once again, that was Rick Dhaliwal. I hope you guys enjoyed this interview with Rick Dhaliwal, and I will see you guys. Oh, and normally I would say go Canucks go, but I'm going to change it up a little bit, and I'm going to say lose Canucks lose, Team Tank. I'll see you guys in the next video.